What's up, everybody? So today we got my good man, my good friend from college, Griffin Strom here. He's a physician assistant up in Marietta, Georgia. Welcome, Griffin. Thanks for coming
Thank you
by.
for having me. Um, yeah, so I think one thing we wanted to talk about was meeting people where they are,
Yeah.
including yourself. So one thing I work in family medicine, so primary care, and in my job, I tell people I say the same thing very frequently. So I say it the same way every time, just so I don't forget it, and it's just easier to do.
Hmm.
So when I talk about somebody with exercise or talk about exercise with somebody, I usually will say something along the lines of the best form of exercise that you can do is what you enjoy and will do.
Hmm.
This is where it gets variable. I will say, hey, if I tell you to lift weights and do sprints and you hate both of those activities, there's no point in me telling you that because you're not going to do it, or you might do it for a little bit. So I say if you like dancing, if you like playing a sport, doing
Yeah.
whatever you can to get some activity in is what I usually will recommend. And so that is kind of that's one example that I use in my job, but I do it with myself, with stuff outside of work. Um, and so trying to meet people where they are. If you're a coach for people in like the fitness realm, and so if you could have the best programming and best diet plan for somebody, but if it doesn't work with their schedule or they don't like a certain aspect of it, it's not going to be as effective than if you found something that may not be the most, whatever, optimal or
Hmm.
uh
Sure.
like something that's the
Yeah.
best for them. But if it's something that they will do more consistently, then they probably will get more results than if you had whatever the perfect programming and hitting all the specific exercises that they should be and doing X, Y, and Z. Um, Finding something that actually they will be able to do in the long term, you will see much more results. And this applies, I apply this to fitness, to finances, to a lot of different things.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point too. Just not necessarily just like health in general or physical health. I like one thing you pointed out too is like I feel like where you meet people at versus where I meet people at is very different, right? Because like usually if someone's coming to me, they either already know they need a change, they're not lacking too much motivation, right? But someone could be coming to you where it's like this, hey, you gotta at least start walking or something, something, right? They may be doing nothing at
Yeah.
all. And I feel like I definitely for a while as a coach was guilty of that. I fell into the 10,000 steps a day rule for everyone, which is not that it's not true, right? Not that getting that and more isn't great, but for that example, like you said, is like if someone comes to one of us in either situation and it's like they're doing nothing, 10,000 steps a day even is like a monumental task. Like that is several miles. So if you're not even walking at all, maybe you're bedridden, work from home, whatever. It's just like I think it's like the perspective. You got to put yourself in someone else's shoes, as the old saying goes. And like something that you don't think is a lot or might be trivial could be like someone else's biggest accomplishment of their lifetime or year.
Yeah, and another thing I will tell people is and I know this is related to health, and I work in medicine and
Yeah,
health
yeah, of course. We don't look it through your lens.
about, but I'm a big proponent of slow, small changes where if somebody, like you said, if somebody is very sedentary, whatever, very eats fast food very frequently for a lot of meals, going from that to walking 10,000 steps a day, working out 3 or 4 days a week, and eating conventionally healthier, clean
Mhm.
foods, going like doing all of that at once is it's gonna be a lot of drastic changes. So instead of doing that, sometimes I will work with people and say, hey, just try and walk for 5 or 10 minutes a few times a week. Add in one, I usually will tell people like pick one fruit and vegetable you like and we'll eat that a few times a week. And then
I
I
like
follow
that. That's a good one.
at some time interval. So and I also will tell people it's easy to do though like some people can do those drastic changes, but it's hard to maintain that for long term. So they could do it for a week, a few weeks, even a few months, but they may not necessarily continue that long term because it's such a drastic change where instead they may have more success making slower, smaller changes. So kind of like
Mhm.
doing stuff like that is sometimes more beneficial.
Yeah, I think one thing too, like I like to go along with what that said is like I've started to I'm trying to think of how to word this. I was like thinking as I was talking, but it's like systems that you create will outlast motivation, right? And there's nothing wrong with being motivated. It's great, but we don't like I think sometimes people look at people who are fit or active and might be like, "Oh, I wish I like had that drive or that motivation." And oftentimes they don't always, of course maybe they did at one point or that's what got them into it and it stuck them in it longer. But I know for me it's like there's plenty of days I still don't want to do anything. And I work with a lot of people that are very fit and have that same, it's not like they're different from you or different from the person who might be watching this that doesn't do that, right? Like we're people too. So I think creating systems and starting small, like you're saying, and building upon them, that's going to outlast motivation.
Yeah, and kind of like you said, when you compare yourself to other people, you're seeing them kind of towards at some whatever a few years into doing
Mhm.
stuff. So they probably did not start where they currently are. I know, like for me, I when I started lifting weights or like taking fitness more seriously in college, it was not how I train now. It was not like my splits did not look how they look. Like
Mhm.
form even my diet, like and nothing. How I live now is very different from when I started. And so sometimes it can be hard for people to kind of realize that like, hey, you may see they're doing whatever they're doing all this stuff. They probably did not start there, and
Yeah.
finding a few easy things that you can do in your life. Like I said, hey, go for a 10-minute walk 2 times a week. After kind of like your previous guest, Mr. Dalton Purvis,
Yeah. Shout out
starting
Dalton
like that.
Purvis.
And then like he kind of had mentioned to call back to that previous episode, you should watch that if you haven't. Um, is
So asterisks, we're actually going to redo that to get this beautiful camera angle that we have now. But the old file still is on Substack for those who
okay.
want to do some
Okay.
searching. But we'll have Dalton back on soon. Little
Okay.
surprise there.
So yeah, he had said like after a while he really was enjoying the walks he took in the morning. And so eventually that'll become your new normal where you will not, you may have like want to do that, but it'll be something you kind of enjoy and can get
Yeah,
some.
it's a habit.
Yeah, so doing that and then stuff like that, I think like small actionable items is to start out with. I will say we both know there's the caveat of you got to do something. You can't say, "Oh, I'm so busy. I have like you got to something for you. If you want something to change, you need to change something."
Yeah.
Really. Where where you can't just be like, oh, well, I'm so busy, I'll just walk 5 minutes a few times a week and then do that for a few weeks. It's something you got to try and be consistent with. But that also being said, there's been times where I have not been as strict or with my diet or exercising and stuff like that. So parts in your life will be different, and you may not always be able to keep up the same level of activity or how strict you are with whatever you're eating. But that's kind of my point is trying to meet yourself where you are. But
Yeah.
that you got to meet yourself there. You got to move. You got to change something. You got to move
Right.
towards where you want at least
So
some.
we're still pushing forward for progress, but it's like we're gonna go to like you said where you're at, right? It's not like the start line doesn't have you don't have to wait for a start line. Your start line's where you are the second you want to start or need to start. I think too, so like building off that next, I would say is like what are maybe some things like what are common things you obviously you've touched on time, but are there any other common things or things that repeat that you hear about what are barriers for people to either food or just health food or working out in general?
Yeah. So yeah, time is probably one of the bigger ones. I sometimes will see patients where they are working in school and have kids, and so then it's kind of, hey, we gotta get what we can in as far as
Mhm.
exercise or our diet. So time is one. Sometimes people may have some sort of medical condition that prevents them from doing certain activities or kind of restricts their diet.
That's right.
So that's another thing is, hey, I want to work out, but I have this issue going on that's kind of preventing me. And so then it becomes a thing of you gotta try and work on that issue to get to where you can be, whether it's be more active or whatever, or like for an example, you're having issues sleeping, so you're really fatigued. It's hard to stay active and eat how you need to. Hey, let's work on fixing this issue that's preventing you from doing what you want to, whether it's hey, I want to run a marathon. Hey, I want to get back into playing the
Mm.
sport, or I just want to be more active in general. So I'd say time, some other, and it doesn't always have to be a health issue. It could be I'm taking care of a loved one or a
Yeah,
family
that's a good
member.
point too.
That's
Yeah.
another one. Let me think. Is there anything else?
It's a pretty solid list though.
Yeah, I would say those two are probably the big two is that people may not have all the time that they need. And I will tell people this too is if you didn't have a job, didn't have kids, didn't have loved ones that you had to take care of, it's a lot of people could get in really good shape if they had
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
healthy
Right,
way to
right.
exercise and get their diet in check. And I think one thing I sometimes fall into on social media is seeing, hey, there's this person who's in great shape and whatever, they lift, they're super strong, they're way stronger than me, they look way better than me.
Yeah.
But
And their story is just constant gym, meal, gym.
yes,
Yes.
and sometimes I have to think, I'm like, this is their job. And so obviously they're generally gonna look a certain way and whatever, be super strong.
Yeah. It
Or
go,
so,
it goes back to one, comparing yourself, but two, it's like, and you brought, I like that you brought up the social media point because another thing is like that in itself is like how that person wants to portray, right? So one, just because what you see does not mean that's the true story or what's going on all the time. Or two, let's say it is exactly. And why are you trying to play a game with someone who's got so many more hours in the week to expend on it? Like
yeah,
they're
unless you
getting
unless
paid essentially or marketing themselves through that. So it's like they're doubling down on efficiency of time.
unless you want to be like a fitness influencer, whatever,
Oh,
you
right. I mean, yeah, if you got the
then it's
time,
that,
but
but I don't.
it's not realistic for especially who like your client base, I would say too, of who you're seeing.
Yeah.
Patient base, I should say, sorry. Um, so I'm trying to think. Okay, I know what I was gonna say. It lost me for a second. We went off that tangent. So I like another thing you pointed out, and it's like I think sometimes I even fall in this because I'm a very goal-oriented person. I'm big on like saying side quest, always find something you want to do, find a goal. And I do have a lot of people that we largely base their training around finite goals, right? Because we want to keep progress towards whatever they want. But what about those people who come in and it's like, hey, their goal is not any physical ability. It's not even a certain target weight necessarily. It's just like they want to sleep through the night without having maybe they don't want to get on the sleep machine, stuff like that. Someone whose goal might not be even something. It's more like health related and just improving their quality of life. I think that's a really cool point you brought up, and I don't. I guess I don't really have a question with it. I just like that you brought it up. But is that what do you see a lot of people like you that come in and that's what they need to start is like that's their first step, first goal?
Yeah, I'd say it's kind of I'd say in general, some people may just, they have kind of vague goals of, oh, I want to get to this certain weight or I want to look this certain, they want to look better.
Mm,
Yeah, and sometimes I'm the one bringing it up,
that's a
where they
good
may not
point.
be aware or they are kind of aware, but may not be ready to change. So that's another thing is sometimes you have to work with them of, hey, what would have to happen or what would have to change for you to want to do this? Where I can sit there and talk with somebody and have a whole plan of, hey, you're going to eat this many calories, do these things for activity. If they're not ready or if they don't want to, I can't make them. So
You can lead the horse to
finding
water, but
it's kind of finding, hey, what would have to happen for you to make these changes? And sometimes it's, hey, oh, whatever, I can't do X or I can't, whatever, can't take care of my kids or I can't play with my kids, something like that, where sometimes you got to kind of see if they're ready.
yeah, I feel like that's and again because like I said, people, if someone comes to me, maybe they're doing a consultation, but it's like they're generally already taking a step by reaching out, right? So
Yeah, a lot of the people who, if they are ready to change, then it's kind of, if they have a specific goal, hey, I want to run a half marathon or I want to do a Spartan race or do whatever. I want to,
insert cool thing. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
to do that. Then it's kind of getting them to that. But if it's just general, I want to feel better. I want my knee to stop hurting. I want my back to stop hurting. Then it's kind of uh, finding ways to get them where they are or where they want to be from where they are.
I like too what you brought up about having to ask. Like I'm sure that's a delicate process of like bringing that up to someone that doesn't And maybe isn't you like, are they even ready for this conversation? Do they desire that? Because it's, it's a line you got to toe, right?
So, yeah. So generally, I mean, related to your Substack and channel and everything, I'm very passionate about like health, wellness, and specifically obesity medicine. So my first thing I say when I'm discussing somebody's weight is it okay if we discuss your weight for just a little bit? So far, nobody has said no, but if somebody does say no, then hey, we'll table it.
That's a very like, like you're not coming in with aggression towards them, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and yeah, and I usually will say, hey, I'm not saying this to talk down on you or put you down, but it's from a medical standpoint, being overweight or obese increases your risk for certain conditions or
mm,
complications, but that doesn't mean everyone who is overweight or obese will get those conditions.
right, exactly, right. And it's like, I like one thing I heard recently. I'm not even going to quote exactly where it's from, but I just saw it on YouTube or something. But it was something along the lines, I think, of someone was giving a speech, about health. That was, I believe they're just a political figure or someone in government. I don't know. And they were talking about obesity, and it was like almost the terminology they used was like it was like people who get it like it was a disease, like it was like the flu or something, right? Like, oh, how unfortunate I got that. And it's like, right, I think it's changing around the world, but it's like obviously we don't need to judge anyone's self-worth by their weight or anything like that. But to recognize it's like this is a controllable, changeable problem when the person feels comfortable with it is it's a conversation I think I'm proud that you have with them, and that I don't know how the consensus is around the PA and doctor world, but I feel like more should have those conversations.
It's definitely, I'd say over the last, I've only been practicing since 2021 and in my current specialty or practice
Hmm.
coming up on, or I think coming up on 2 years.
Ooh,
Um,
okay.
Obesity is starting to be the mindset around it is changing a little bit where
Hmm.
it's more thought of as a chronic health condition, similar to people who are diabetic or have high blood pressure or have depression or whatever, any other what you would consider like a classical chronic condition.
Hmm.
The mindset is shifting a little bit more to this is a disease. It's a disease process that affects all genders, races, like
Yeah.
with people from different countries. Obviously, the incidence and prevalence rates are a little different depending on where you look, but I think yeah, it's people are starting to think of it less as a personal failure, and this is generally how I feel as well. Don't want to get too opinionated, but
Right. That's I feel like I was trying to toe along because it's a delicate subject, right?
yeah, and
So
it is trying to think of it less of a personal failure of an individual and less or more of a complex disease process that has a lot of moving parts that goes into it. Generally, there's not one thing that will cause somebody to become.
right. Like it wasn't the powdered donut. The powdered
Yeah.
donut isn't the thing spreading it. Yeah.
It's a lot of things like other chronic medical conditions where it's really complex and we would have to have a few episodes to go into
Yeah,
that.
I think
So
I think you to that touches on something in general. Like half the time when we're talking too is like if a question of one of us ask either way, it's like, well, it depends. Like, do you want me to give you the quick elevator answer, or when we really dive in this, we could probably talk about that one subject for hours because
unfortunately, social media will kind of try sometimes, and I'm simplifying here, but they will oversimplify something that's very nuanced and complex. Um, in some situations, that's good, or it can be helpful, but I think sometimes you got to look at it from a lot of different ways and see what all can go into it, where two people could both be the same height and weight, and they could have gotten to that weight two very different
oh,
ways
100%, yeah.
where one person could just be very sedentary and whatever, eat the powdered donuts, and one person could have whatever, had some serious traumatic injury and was bedridden for 2 years or
Yeah,
for
yeah.
some extended period of time. Neither of them are better or worse as an individual. They're both in the same situation. So that's where kind of taking judgment out of stuff like that.
Yeah,
Sometimes,
I like that a lot. I like that the way you worded that a lot too. I think for putting you on the spot for it unintentionally, that was a very good answer. Well, just to close out, I mean, we don't have to rush off by any means, but is there anything else? Well, I've just been kind of rambling questions back at you, but is there anything you wanted to, maybe you thought of while we were talking or go over and bring a point home before we kind of wrap up here?
I think to wrap up, it'd be if you and sometimes we do. I feel like we're talking very generally. So, say somebody is wanting to change how they look and lose weight or something, one thing they could do is, like I said, the small actionable items starting out is instead of walking 15,000 steps, eating salads every day for lunch and like not eating any of the foods that you enjoy is I try not to tell people to take things out of their diet. I try to have them add things.
That's
So
great. I like that. Yeah.
generally, I will tell a lot of my patients I've never heard of or seen somebody who was overweight or obese or gained a ton of weight from eating too many fruits and vegetables. So,
Yeah.
a lot of people, especially in developed countries, do not eat enough fruit and vegetables. So, if there's one thing that somebody listening to this takes from this, eat more fruits and
Eat
vegetables.
your fruits and
Um,
veggies.
and I text my beautiful wife Sabri all the time that I'm tired and don't want to eat my baby carrots because that's the main vegetable I'll eat with my
Yeah.
lunch. And so one thing I've just a personal anecdote is the past 2 weeks or so, I found that I'll walk around my office if I'm not busy when I'm eating my carrots, and that makes it a little easier. So that's made it a little easier, but I still don't like eating them. I'd rather eat a ton of fruit.
Right.
So stuff like that where you can find ways that where for somebody else that may not work. Walking around and chewing on carrots may not help. But it could be wherever get some hummus. I've done that too, hummus or something.
Yeah,
Dip it
that's
in where that's gonna
hiding your veggies. I'll bring up, my fiance Hannah, like I used to, she's better about it now, but I used to joke with her. I would like feed her things and hide vegetables in the sauce or like it was a little kid, right? It's like if you have to treat yourself like that, just because you eat fruits and vegetables doesn't mean it has to suck, right? It doesn't have to be gross and boring. I mean, sure, you got to learn to cook or be a certain
yeah.
level, but there are ways to be creative. And I think going off your point too, I've started to like to tell people, and this is a whole nother rant. I'm not going to get into it too much, but like for vitamins, for example, right, or supplements, it's like one, it's usually a lot cheaper to just get some fruit and veggies and have those, and you'll get natural sources of various vitamins versus boom, I'm just popping this, man-made thing off the shelf, which again, like I said, whole other subject, but you kind of get the general point.
Yeah, and yeah, that's another. People will ask me about vitamins or certain supplements. I usually say if you can, getting it from Whole Foods or from your diet is ideal. That obviously for depending on somebody's situation is not always super easy or doable. So sometimes supplementing is not the worst thing, but yeah, generally,
Yeah. I mean, I think people miss the boat. It's like supplementing is to supplement, right? It's in the name. So it's like, you should expand to other avenues and at least try the natural route first, in my opinion. But like you said, there's also people that's not feasible, but that's hopefully something you've at least talked about to explore,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, so you
Um,
don't, yeah, I would say not starting with a supplement is trying to get that. And then if you find, hey, I'm not getting enough fiber, a fiber supplement is probably fine.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
think
mean,
again, we can tie it right back in to meet them where they are. Like
yeah,
some people might need that because they can't even fathom putting a carrot in their mouth because there's like carrot. But some people they're like, oh, I could do that versus pop this vitamin every day. Well, dude, I appreciate it. You got one last message or shout out or anything? Or are you good to hop off?
um,
But
yeah, I think
definitely we'll have you
more
back.
fruits
I
and
love this
vegetables.
is awesome. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for having me. It was great to be on. I'd say, yeah, just eat more fruits and vegetables. That's probably, I think that is one of the biggest things that you will have positive health outcomes from doing that. Whether it's losing weight, whether it's reducing your risk of cardiovascular disease, generally, it's like that is one good place to start, is more fruits and vegetables.
I love it, dude. All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. I will cheers from me and Grogu.
Yep.
I'll talk to you later, my man. Have a good one. Thank you.
Thanks.